Welcome back to the Crystal Vision podcast. I am your host, Olivia, Clare, and today we have freedom architect Dana Corey, who's going to take us out of hustle culture and help us step into our CEO role on this episode. We explore topics such as the malleability of time. I had a little bit of trouble saying that. Why doing less will actually help you make more, and when it's time to start hiring and delegating to a team. Make sure to share this episode with your fellow boss babes and like, rate, and review so that we can continue to reach more people and transform more businesses. See you in the episode. Hello and welcome to the Crystal Vision podcast, where we dive deep into the strategies and energetics of business, money, and mindset mastery so as to create the next generation of wildly wealthy women. My name is Olivia Clare and I'm a serial entrepreneur who is obsessed with giving you all of the tools that you need to create your crystal clear vision of success. Each week, you will hone in on your unique zone of genius and embody the highest version of yourself to reverse engineer your way to your dream life. If you're ready to let go of the hustle and effortlessly call in more money, more growth, and more fulfillment, stay tuned. Hi, Dana. Welcome to the Crystal Vision podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really great. It's so nice to meet you finally. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, anytime. I've been really looking forward to this podcast interview for a while. That was actually one of my notes of the first things to chat about was we had to move this podcast recording around a couple of times. I think I was like sick one time, and then the other time you weren't able to make it because you're like, oh, I'm going to be traveling for like 2 months in my caravan. So please tell me, I'm such a travel girl. How was it?
Oh my God. It was amazing. So we had a self-converted Sprinter van. We were in it for 5 weeks, and I live in Portland, Oregon, so in the Pacific Northwest of the US. And we drove up. It's a 5-hour drive to Canada. So we drove up to Canada and we explored British Columbia and parts of Alberta, and the landscape is amazing. We saw bears, we saw elk, we saw a fox, we saw orcas and all sorts of whales. Oh my God. Eagles was so
cool. Canada is like top of my bucket list. If not next year, I am going to Greece next year, but if not next year, then the year after, I have to get to Canada. So I'm so jealous, but so happy for you that like Canada turned on, its landscape and you got to see all the animals as well. That's so exciting. And like, what a cool way to just slow down. I find I do have a camper van as well. And it's such an interesting way to travel because you feel so connected with your surroundings and you can sort of, really take it slower. And sometimes that's nice when society is so fast paced.
It was awesome. It's such a reset, like mentally, emotionally, gives me a chance to really reconnect with my husband. It was fun.
I'm so happy to hear that. Okay, awesome. Now let's get into the juicy stuff, the business stuff. You work with experienced entrepreneurs to help make them more money by working less hours. But I find it really interesting that you don't identify as a coach. So you identify as a freedom architect. How did you come up with that term and why does it resonate with you so much?
Well, I actually always introduce myself as a business strategist, but one of my clients called me a freedom architect. And I totally, it just went clunk. And the reason really is freedom is my highest value. And when I'm talking to established, really successful business owners who are, either just under or going just above the $1 million mark, when they come to me and they need help, what's really clear is that they are sacrificing so much of their brain space, their time, their life force to their business. And by the time we're done, they have spaciousness again. They're taking weekends off. All of my clients are required to take vacation and not work on vacation. They're spending time with the people that matter to them most. It's a really transformational. And it is really about putting freedom back into your life while owning a business, not being owned by your business.
Yes, that's such a powerful distinction and something I feel like I see a lot people get started in business for freedom and then they, 6 months, 12 months down the line are like, hang on a second, well, why am I working more than I was when I was at a corporate job? This doesn't make any sense. Or even the idea of like taking vacations off and not doing any work, I think for business owners is like, what? But if things are going to fall apart without me. And so I love that that's a rule. Like it's not even a suggestion. It's like, no, you have to take a vacation off. I just sort of want to play with this idea a little. And I want to ask you, because I know you said you work with like C-level execs and you also work with people who are just starting out. So what have you seen, across that sort of range of individuals to be the most common thing that holds people back in their business?
I think that, well, it's often two different things. When you're at the beginning, when you're starting out, what holds you back is just not knowing what of all the myriad of things that you think need to happen, which ones to do in which order, like how to manage the fire hose that is starting a business. When you get to the point where you have a viable business, you have clients or customers, they return, they keep buying from you, you have a great reputation and things are going really well. It's not so much a fire hose that you're dealing with. You're dealing with your own, you're going from trying to micro control everything, which doesn't actually work that well at that stage, to being the CEO leader. It's a really different brain game. So there's the nuts and bolts of the business part, which are, the how to do things. And I'm going to be really honest, any business owner who has been successful enough to get themselves to a place in business where their revenue is $1 million or above, they are doers. They are implementers. That is not their problem. Their problem is how to do it without having their fingers in every single pot, how to be the conductor so they can go back to being the creative visionary. And that's a brain game.
Yeah, that's interesting. I love how you bring up visionary. I identify as an integrator and I preach visionary for days and days and days. And I think that's such an interesting, I've actually never heard anyone explain it to me like that. And I've been doing lots of podcasts, lots of business chats for years now. And so I suppose, when do we need to step into that visionary role? Like, do you think there's a certain number, like when we hit $1 million plus, or how can we even identify, hang on a second, I'm still doing all the things and not, in order to like grow and scale, I actually need to step back more. Like, how can we start to make that shift?
Well, I think knowing when you are is different for everybody, right? Just like we all have different strengths and weaknesses, even though 85% of business is the same across industries, what makes the difference is the human who is behind that, right? The CEO, the person who started it. And some people, just from the get-go, are able to hold a bigger container than others, right? They're able to manage or understand how to set up an infrastructure of business so that they get their bottleneck comes later on. But it's really at a place when you can recognize for yourself that you accomplished so much, but that you're having that goal, that next goal, getting your business to that next place. You're finding that all the things that you knew how to do, all the tricks and tips and systems that you had aren't working to get you beyond where you are to where you're going. Most of the people who come work with me, they've read books, they've taken workshops, they've really tried, right? But they find that all that information, the information isn't enough. They need more than the information. They need the know-how on how to work on themselves as leaders. It's that place where they start to recognize that they are the bottleneck.
Yeah.
They can get out of their own way, right? And that's really different than when you're starting.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's powerful when you can start to, and I think a cool way to start to look at that is having a look at your to-do list. So everyone, I don't know about you guys, but I always start with a daily to-do list and seeing how many of those things can you actually delegate and take off your to-do list fairly easily. And if not, what processes would you need to put in place? What people would you need to hire in order to cut down your to-do list by 80%?
And then imagine what you can do with that extra time and how many more things you could do that are needle movers versus just getting the things done. So that's something I like to play with every now and again when I think, oh, I'm so stressed. I've got so much to do today. And then I think, well, I don't have to. I could pass off some of this stuff. And if I feel like I can't, like why am I bottlenecking myself and how can I sort of break that bottleneck? So I love that, like the term bottleneck and using that in business, especially like when you are a founder or a CEO, it's really, really important to check in with yourself and see where you're holding the business back as well. So if someone's struggling to understand how they can actually earn more by working less, maybe they're caught up in hustle culture, maybe they've been working really, really hard in their business for years and years and years, and they just think that this is how it's supposed to be. What would be your number one piece of advice for them?
Well, I love what you said, because that exercise, I do that exercise only on a bigger scale for my clients than on a daily basis. We really look at the whole environment of the business and look at everything on their list that somebody else could do. What are the things that really only the CEO or the founder, what are the things that they're the only ones in their business that they could do? Or not even in their business? What are the things that is their magic sauce, their genius that only they can do? And what are the things they're doing that really somebody else could do? And they either have that person or they don't, or right? But they know they could delegate it if they had somebody to delegate it to. So we look to see that, and then we batch those tasks, define different roles, and then make some decisions based on their priorities and their parameters and what they want to see on which roles to fill first, how to get those tasks off. So that's definitely a place to start. But another place that I work on around time is, how do you spend your time on a daily basis? Most people think that they don't have enough time in a day. The truth is that time is actually a way more malleable than most people believe. But you need to create a structure inside which you have spontaneity. So if you have freedom, total freedom with no structure, what you have is chaos. But if you create a structure inside which you have the freedom to mess, to play, to daydream, you actually allow yourself the distraction of being sucked into your phone, for instance, without giving yourself a really hard time or beating yourself up afterwards. And you know that in a week's time or in a 2 weeks' time, that there's always specific times that you've set aside to do particular kinds of work that do indeed move, as you said, move the needle forward. I always say, make the cash register ring. That's the number one job. There's 2 jobs of a CEO. Okay, there's 3. There is being the face of the company. It's so that you can make the cash register ring. Business development is the job of the CEO, because you are the most excited and most knowledgeable about what it is that you're selling. So go out there and sell it. Don't try to delegate selling until you've gotten to like the $20 million mark. And I have friends who own $20 million businesses, and they're like, yeah, it's not a good idea. You can have a sales team to do most of the job, but in the end, you want to be the one who closes. So that's one job. Second job, visionary. So you are looking out into the future, really figuring out where it is that you want to take the company. What are the possibilities? Where are you going? And what's it going to take to make that happen? That's the job of the CEO. Third job is to make sure that whoever is delivering on the promises that you're making in your sales are delivering them with really well, beautifully, more over-deliver. People say over-deliver. Deliver to delight, right? So you're delivering to delight so that your clients and customers are delighted by your work. But this drives your reputation, which then actually drives your referral business. Everything else should be delegated.
Wow.
eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. And yes, that's a good distinction as well. Like if you haven't hit six figures in your business yet, please don't go out and hire a full team of people. You will get there. But often I find you need to learn the bits and you need to know exactly what it is that you're delegating before you delegate. So yes, that's a very good distinction. But I absolutely love how you broke that down. And there is one thing that I want to talk about a little bit more because I really struggle with it. I see it so much in our society, this scarcity around time. And I read a book about it recently that I feel like it's had a big impact on me and just being able to, even having a choice to view time differently and choosing not to say, wow, the year's gone so fast, or how is it already 5 p.m.? So can you talk a little bit more about, so you said time is malleable. Why do you think it's malleable? How can we get more time? Because really that's all that people want at the end of the day is as much time as possible.
But we've all experienced time being malleable, actually. We've all had those times when we're really looking forward to something and anticipation makes time move like molasses, like super, super slowly, right? And then there are times when we're having such a great experience and we're completely in the flow that time moves super, super fast. Time, it's experiential. In that way, it is malleable. Part of being able to bring that into your actual daily life is understanding boundaries, how to create them, how to set them, what priorities they're designed to protect for you, both boundaries that only are for you, right? Promises that you make to yourself, but also boundaries that you make about things that are happening outside of you, when you say yes, when you say no. That's really important when it comes to creating time. The other thing is that we, as entrepreneurs, just in general, are impatient. And things never move fast enough for us. Now, I'm 63 years old. I've been doing some sort of entrepreneurship for 35 years in a variety of ways. And I'm really clear that I want to make sure that I'm living my life while I'm living my life, right? I have friends and know many people who have put off so many things in their life that they're going to do once they are retired and then end up not well or end up, for any number of reasons, can't do that. And so if we can not buy into this hustle culture that things have to happen immediately and give ourselves the grace of space. What's shocking is that business grows faster.
Yeah.
And this, again, I want to be really clear here. I'm not talking about that first year of business, right? I'm not talking about when you're first making a thing happen, but that is a very short period of time in the scheme of somebody's life. It's after that. And it turns out there's so much evidence, not just for me personally and my clients, but out there in the world, that it is actually a real thing that if you work less, it is 95% that you will make more. If you're trying to do that hustle culture, work, working more is never the answer.
Yes, I love that because as soon as you say that to yourself, hang on, say I want to get to this specific place, I want to get to this revenue number, whatever it might be. And you say, well, I'll just put in more hours. As soon as you take that out as a possibility, you have to start to think smarter about what it is that you're doing. And that's when you really have that space and freedom to have a breakthrough or to have insights about what it is that's going to grow your business, because it's just not solved super quickly with more. It's okay, I've got to actually think, and taking time to think about your business and have that time to visualize it, to daydream is so important. And I think it's something that's missing a lot.
One of the things that is really important, as I said earlier, is to get business leaders, CEOs outside of their office and out in the world. And one of the reasons that that's true is that what happens with your brain when you're working in your daily operations day after day after day, your brain gets used to the ruts, right? The routine ruts. And all it can see is task after task after task after task. Really hard for your brain to split into two. So then being innovative or coming up with solutions to problems is difficult for it because your brain is so focused on what has to be done next or putting out the fire. Once a year, I take clients on an international experience to get them out of the office, to reconnect them to that part of themselves that started their business in the first place, but more importantly, to daydream, to have their business in the background in their heads as they're experiencing a different culture, being a little bit pushed outside of their comfort zone. Being uncomfortable is actually really, really useful to reignite that visionary thinking and that problem solving piece. But it requires you to actually trust that your team can run your business while you are out there making new thoughts.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful. I love that. And yeah, if on a smaller scale, I also suggest this to some of my clients, especially ones when I work with a lot of visionaries who can tend to be get really caught up in the vision and stressed out by the systems, by the processes, by the tasks, which is where I come in. But I always say to them, try and for me, it's coffee shop. I go and I sit at a coffee shop, have my coffee, go on my Pinterest, daydream a little about what I want my life to look like. And just that 15, 30 minutes can completely shift my entire week because I'm operating from a place of what do I actually want versus what do I need to get done. So I love culture. And like you said, having different experiences, experiencing different countries and being uncomfortable is so important. And on a smaller scale, don't listen to this and be like, well, I can't go overseas. You can still have, that same experience in your own environment. Maybe go for a hike somewhere new. That'll stimulate everything.
Yeah. So one thing I did once in Portland was I organized a ropes course day and I invited all of the entrepreneurs that I knew. We had 20 women and we went out into the woods and we did a few what would normally be considered team building exercises, which for us was really great because we're all so solo. But then we got on a ropes course up 200 feet. I know you guys don't use feet.
Very high.
Very high in the trees, right? To be uncomfortable, to do things that we didn't think we could do before. And that was just because I happen to live in a place where we have mountains and we have amazing trees. But you can do things like that. Go roller skating if you haven't been roller skating in 20 years, right? Go do something that's going to challenge the way you think of yourself or that scares you just a little bit locally. Doesn't have to cost much. Just go do something different.
Yeah.
And it works.
Oh, this is so good. I feel so inspired now. I love doing podcast interviews early in the morning because now I'm like, oh, I should go ice skating or, have a really fun weekend. I would love to switch gears and chat about you a little bit now. What is it that you're currently passionate about and what is lighting you up, whether it's in life or in business?
What am I currently passionate about? I think it's often the same. My passion is connection and having really interesting conversations that spark new ideas. So I love that. I really I work in a one-to-one capacity with my clients. It's really all I do on a regular basis. And for me, it's the intimacy of that relationship over time. And it has the highest probability of transformation and really creates remarkable results. And in this time in my life, actually a year from now, my husband and I are moving to Mexico. He's going to retire. I'm taking my business with me. And so I'm excited about that. For the very first time, I published a CEO creation kit. It's a journaling process along with a deck of cards. And it's all about shifting what a CEO believes about themselves so that it makes it easier to make that transition. So I'm excited about that.
Oh my God, I need that immediately. Is it available now?
We're still trying to just get it on the website. And I know you probably can't see it on when you're hearing about it, but I'm showing Olivia the cover. It says the
black and gold. That's
black
CEO.
and gold and pink. And it walks you through this 20-minute process every morning and then a 5-minute process every night. Gives you space for 3 months And I will say, I hate journaling. Let's just be honest here. I absolutely hate journaling. And I have found over the years that every time I get stuck, if I just am willing to get over myself and sit down and do this process, I didn't even have to do it for 3 months, to be perfectly honest, like 5 days. And all of a sudden, things start shifting. You know what? I'm just going to make it easy for people. Let me just describe to you this process that I do and that I do with my clients. And it really makes a difference. So I'm excited about that. As soon as I get it up with a page,
send it to me. Yeah. By the time this episode comes out, it might be up, so we can put like the link in the description as well. But I need that. Journaling's the same with me. I feel like because it gives me so many shifts in my brain, I'm always like, I don't need to do that. Like, I'm fine. I don't need to sit down and journal because it's uncomfortable, but it's so transformative. So I feel like something like that, where the questions are outlined, it's just a few minutes in the morning and in the night, and it's pretty. Like, I'll be more likely to be like, oh, it's my CEO time, my CEO shifting time. So powerful. Is there anything else that like you're working on that we can link for people in the show notes, or ways that they can sort of find you and chat with you?
Yeah, well, come and find me on my website because everything's there. So that's danacorey.com. I do have we've been calling it a course. It's a course for people who aren't quite ready to do a 9-month one-on-one intimate program with me. They are working towards being ready to work with me or be at the stage where I'm not a fire hose for them. And kind of it walks people through this structure of how to create more time for themselves, how to understand their numbers and not be afraid of them, and then how to actually extrapolate the data that your numbers are telling you about, and what numbers are actually important in order for you to bring in more clients, how to fill a pipeline, all of that. And then a whole thing on what does it really take to be a leader. And so that is going to be up and going too. So I can send you the link to that.
Oh, I would love
Foundations Framework. And that's really cool too.
Awesome. Okay, last question. Without revealing too much, what is your crystal vision for the future, so that in a few years' time we can look back, listen back to what you said, and be like, tick, 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 she's done it all.
Okay, so I work with my clients coming in for 9 months in this intense container called catapult version. But when my clients are done with that, we often transition into an ongoing engagement for years and years and years that is a quarterly strategic planning. And I'm really terrible at names, so it's actually called quarterly strategic planning.
Keep it simple.
And what I love about that is that the clients who choose to do that are my favorite clients, right? Because we can't get enough of each other, and because it really worked. And it allows me, in a year from now, it's likely that I can have enough clients in that part of my business that I can just do mostly that for the next 5 years.
Wow, how good, with your favorite people. Like, that's the best part about having your own business and being really conscious about what you're doing, is being able to pay your bills whilst doing something you love with people that you love. So it's just like, yeah, I love that. I can see that vision. I'm there with you. I'm excited. I'm going to go have a coffee solo date because I'm feeling all like lit up by our conversation. Is there anything else that I didn't ask you, or anything else you want to say before we can call this podcast episode a success?
The one thing I want to really just leave people with is that the only way to fail is to quit. Actual failure is part of success, but the only way to actually fail is to stop. Because things aren't working out just yet. It's because you haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yes, powerful. It takes time. It feels like forever. That's time being malleable. When you're trying to make things work, you're like, why is this taking forever? And we're being inundated on social media with everyone else's success. It is just a time thing. So I love that. What a great way to end the show. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I'm obsessed with your earrings and your vibe. I will go and find you. I'm pretty sure I'm following you on the socials, but if not, I'll just do it on all my accounts. And can't wait to, I don't know, maybe one day. I always have all these people in the US that I'm like, I need to meet you in person when I finally make it over there. So I think you're definitely one of them. when I'm over there, we can hang out. But yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Thanks so much, Olivia.